Everyone above the age of 12 months should be receiving their vaccines to help us fight sickness and inhibit the spread of disease. Recently, the most popular argument against vaccines has been that the ingredients used cause autism spectrum disorder, ASD. The doctor that first argued this, Andrew Wakefield, circulated fraudulent studies that correlated vaccines with children. Though the doctor has since been indicted for falsifying these studies, the idea has stuck. Parents are beginning to fight vaccination requirements for public school, and they want to opt out because they're scared of making their children autistic. Fortunately, the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, has determined that some people have had concerns about ASD, but studies have shown that there is no link between receiving vaccines and developing ASD. The CDC conducted real studies with verifiable results, and there's no reason to believe that vaccines cause autism. I conducted a survey of 13 people from different age groups, and all but one of them had heard that autism is caused by vaccines. They have all decided they don't believe it. See Visual 1. People do worry about the potential harm of injecting themselves and their children with not only a deadly virus, though in minuscule amounts, but also chemicals. But everyone is constantly exposed to chemicals, and vaccinations are the few chemicals that are actually very regulated and heavily tested for safety. A study conducted by the Associated Press in 2008 measured chemicals and other drugs in water systems of 24 major cities and found sex hormones, antibiotics, anticonvulsants, and mood stablers, among other things, in the water in New York City. Most water in the United States contains fluoride, which can cause adult fractures and bone tenderness in high amounts. Non-organic foods contain pesticides. There are chemicals everywhere. And because we are constantly pumping chemicals into our bodies, we don't usually get to choose which ones come in. Vaccinations offer reassurance. With over a century of science to back them up, they are created according to strict health codes and are approved as a safe method of fighting all the other stuff we can't control. The U.S. has an incredibly safe system to survey the manufacturing of vaccinations to make sure that they're safe. There's extraordinarily strong data from many different medical investigators, all pointing to the safety of vaccines. In fact, they're among the most safe products in all of medicine, according to the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases. At the same time, you can get a generic decongestant to treat the flu that you get if you don't vaccinate, and that's not approved or tested by any organization. Like I said, the chemicals that are used to treat people are arguably worse for them. People who don't get vaccinated get sick, so they'll likely have to choose between vaccination to prevent the disease or medicine to cure it. This is more so a decision between two regimens of chemicals. The CDC website is transparent about the vaccines, providing full lists of all chemicals that can be found in individual vaccines. The flu vaccination, the most recent one, contains 5 safe chemicals, most of which are filtered out during the manufacturing process anyway. On the other hand, decongestants, aspirins, and antihistamines, which are combined to treat the flu, tend to be much less regulated than vaccines and carry a far longer and more observable and common list of side effects than vaccines. A popular decongestant is highly effective but also addictive. Also, it is a precursor for methamphetamine because the medicine can be used to synthesize the drug, according to compoundinterest.org. WebMD describes side effects of decongestants as heart irregularities, dizziness, nausea, sleep problems, etc. Many credible online sources, and my own personal experience, find that it's ultra common for people to experience these side effects, multiple of them, as a result of using things like decongestants. However, the side effects of vaccinations are rare. VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Effect Reporting System, logs around 30,000 possible cases of side effects from vaccinations annually. However, only 10 to 15% of these cases are actually able to be connected to the vaccines. So around 3,000. But 3,000 of 451,000 people, 100,000 people who received vaccinations last year is a small number, and those 3,000 experienced small side effects like dizziness, drowsiness, arm pain, or allergic reactions. Some of these are similar to the decongestant. Vaccines are safe, reliable, and proven to fight disease and death. Even so, the debate between vaccines or no vaccines is almost a choice between two evils. We'll be using chemicals anyway, either in the treatment phase after getting the flu or to avoid sickness altogether and ultimately save lives. The CDC estimated that 732,000 American children were saved from death, and 322 million cases of childhood illness were prevented in the last 10 years due to vaccination. Viruses that have previously wiped out entire cities are now simply cautionary tales because vaccines and treatments were developed to fight them. But some of these viruses have been reappearing because people haven't been getting their vaccinations. 12 of the 13 people I surveyed said yes, they vaccinate themselves and their children, but one woman decided she would not vaccinate herself or her child because they make the immune system weaker and more reliant on medicine. See visual 2. There's this notion we shouldn't get vaccines because they make people sick. Of course, a vaccination is basically an injection of a virus into the bloodstream, but it's a small virus, so your body can build up antibodies and strengthen the immune system. The assumption beneath that notion, though, is that we wouldn't get sick otherwise. In the first 8 months of 2014, there were 18 measles outbreaks in the United States and nearly 600 cases of measles. That's nearly 3 times more cases than in any year since 2001, according to the CDC. Vaccines actually strengthen the immune system, and people are getting sick because they aren't building up their immune system against the viruses that we thought were eradicated. Unfortunately, people may feel a measure of illness after the injection as the body learns how to fight the tiny amount of virus in the system, but that's a small price to pay for health and security in the face of extinct viruses. A more considerate option is to argue on behalf of how vaccinations are considerate of one's community. An anecdotal article in the LA Times details the struggle of a young mother whose infant son was too young to be vaccinated, and another older boy who was also unvaccinated by choice of his mother, and he infected the baby boy with measles. The struggle with the virus lasted a few years before the boy was able to live normally, but he had close encounters with death over that time. According to the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases, a vaccine-preventable disease that might make you sick for a week or two could prove deadly for your children, grandchildren, or parents if it spreads to them. When you get vaccinated, you're protecting yourself and your family. For example, adults are the most common source of whooping cough infection in infants, which can be deadly. In 2010 alone, 25 infants died in the U.S. from whooping cough. We are all potential hosts for disease, and the possibility of saving our own lives and the lives and health of others should be heavily weighed against the slight possibility of minor, even major side effects. You wouldn't run into your friend's house if your clothes were on fire because you wouldn't want to endanger that friend and his family. So please don't bring viruses into our schools and public places. Get vaccinated.